That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, to be honest, this video, like so many others, I wasn't exactly planning on making, just because I know that a lot of people are probably tired by now of hearing the free agency winners, free agency losers. But we had so many requests on Patreon that we made this video that I'm like, okay, I guess we are going to. And I will say, because I understand that a lot of these videos have already been made, I'm going to try to stay away from the obvious guys like a Chris Carson, like a Curtis Samuel, like a Mike Davis. We're going to be trying to go a little bit more under the radar, and I'm going to be talking about my realistic expectations for some of these players in having their situation improve for 2021. But of course, what I need to do is I need to give a massive shout out to Notification Gang. Everybody subscribe to the channel, has that notification bell hit, and comes out to the live videos, comes out to the live premieres. And what I will say for y'all, not only am I going to continue to answer your questions during the live shows, but what I'm also going to try to do is I'm going to actually try to live stream more mock drafts now that we are done with NFL free agency. So of course, if you want to come and participate in those mock drafts, make sure that you are subscribing to the channel. And another quick announcement, we have updated our rookie rankings for both Superflex and one quarterback leagues. That's going to be found on Patreon. And I'm going to be trying to get some more rookie mock drafts. That way we can get more rookie ADP to put on Patreon after these pro days go on. But that's it. Drop a like on the video, leave a comment telling me why I'm stupid, and let's get into it. And our first player that I want to talk about being under the radar winner is going to be Bryan Edwards, someone that I hated in rookie drafts last offseason, someone that we avoided aggressively, but not going to lie, in a recent flock league, I actually went out there and traded for Bryan Edwards after free agency because I think a lot of people are overlooking the fact that this Raiders situation has really improved for both Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs. The reason I'm including Bryan Edwards here instead of Henry Ruggs is simply because Ruggs is going to be on the field no matter what. Ruggs is the profile of the wide receiver that is going to be seeing significant snaps, and he's never really going to get significant targets based on the profile of his own way he plays. But with Bryan Edwards, this is someone that you could end up seeing have a decent amount of targets if he can get the snaps, which he is going to now. That the Raiders, instead of bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster, instead of bringing in Kenny Golladay, instead of re-signing Nelson Agholor, they really stayed silent. They didn't make any moves. All that happened is they got rid of Tyrell Williams, they got rid of Nelson Agholor, and now we are looking at this depth chart going, okay, yes, obviously Darren Waller is going to be the target hog. You can throw Darren Waller into the mix of winners at the same time, but Bryan Edwards is now going to be a consistent playmaker for this offense. The team invested a third-round pick into him last offseason, and if we remember during training camps, what was kind of funny is Bryan Edwards was getting all the hype. Bryan Edwards was that preseason darling. If we would have had the preseason, I'm sure he would have been shooting up average draft position. But what we are seeing now is we are seeing pretty much everybody give up on him. I don't want to reveal the trade that I made for him in this video because I'm probably going to be breaking them down a few days from now. But here with Bryan Edwards, I think if you can go and trade for him as a throw-in, while we hated his price last offseason, I've been seeing him kind of be valued as a third-round rookie pick. And I think that now that he projects to have the opportunity in 2021, and we understand that you can explain away his lack of production his rookie season due to the ankle injury that he suffered and was never really able to get back on track, I think that Bryan Edwards is easily a winner in free agency. Okay, so now our next player that we are going to be talking about is going to end up being Terry McLaurin. And I understand a lot of people want to focus in on Curtis Samuel. I've traded away Curtis Samuel in a couple of flock leagues since free agency at a massive profit. I'll get into those trades a few days from now. But Terry McLaurin is actually going to be the player that I'm focusing on. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying, Mason, you're an idiot. Did you not see the money they gave Curtis Samuel? And I said this in a live stream a couple days ago, but for anybody not really paying attention, obviously, the Washington football team was going to be bringing in another wide receiver. What you did not want to see from the Washington football team is you did not want to see them bring in an AJ Green. You did not want to see them bring in a Juju Smith-Schuster, someone that isn't necessarily going to increase the overall efficiency of the offense. And at the same time, they were going to have a significant target share, at least a large enough target share to take away from Terry McLaurin. But what is perfect about Curtis Samuel and what makes him the best wide receiver to play next to is the fact that he doesn't necessarily command a ton of targets. If we look at what this coaching staff did for him in back-to-back seasons in Carolina, we actually saw Curtis Samuel be used in 2 separate ways. In one season, he was used more as that gadget-type player that is just kind of opening things up for the offense and kind of keeping the defensive coordinator in check. And also, he was used as a deep threat option, which is obviously fantastic because when you're that deep threat option, even if the quarterback is Ryan Fitzpatrick, you're not necessarily going to be getting targets at a very high clip. Instead, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be very efficient with the targets that you receive, and you're going to be keeping the safeties back for other wide receivers in the offense to operate. So here with Terry McLaurin, he had a fantastic situation. I think this is probably the best case scenario for the team bringing in another wide receiver outside of maybe Will Fuller. And at the same time, he gets probably the best quarterback that he has ever played with in his NFL career in Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in. We know that Fitzpatrick is that D-gap quarterback that's going to be slinging it into tight coverage. And Terry McLaurin is a great wide receiver at the catch point. So I think McLaurin has to be a massive riser going into year 3. Now, I will admit I've had questions around Terry McLaurin, but that was mainly due to his situation, and I didn't think that he possessed top 5 wide receiver upside based on the situation that we had in Washington, but this is going to be something completely different. All right, so now let's go to a wide receiver that very similar to Terry McLaurin. I love what happened, and I've actually seen him on the loser list for some people. Now, this is going to be Devante Parker. Okay, so I know a lot of people are saying, Mason, you're an idiot here as well. I mean, they brought in Will Fuller, but what I will say with Devante Parker is, of course, they were bringing in another wide receiver. I mean, this has been a team that has been consistently mocked to take a Devontae Smith, to take a Jamar Chase at the very top of the 2021 NFL Draft. To go along with that, this was also a team that was in the mix for Kenny Golladay, and you really did not want that situation for Devante Parker because then you would go, okay, there are going to be 2 alphas in the offense. There are going to be 2 guys soaking up targets, where Will Fuller is the perfect situation for Devante Parker because Devante Parker is now going to be asked to play that X wide receiver role where Will Fuller is going to be that field stretching option. And this is exactly what we talked about in the case of Curtis Samuel, where you want that wide receiver coming in that is going to play significant snaps, that is going to guard the incumbent wide receiver from losing targets, but you aren't necessarily going to end up seeing the new wide receiver manage to have a very large target share. So here, Devante Parker, I actually really like what happened. I think the Miami Dolphins are a little bit less likely to spend that significant draft capital on a wide receiver now. I'm viewing him as a much safer option. All right, so now let's stick it with Miami. Let's stick it with Myles Gaskin here. And Myles Gaskin, yes, he still has a couple bullets to dodge. He has to dodge 3 main bullets for him to be extremely safe. He has to dodge Najee Harris, he has to dodge Travis Etienne, and Javonte Williams. I think any of those 3 running backs coming in automatically make Myles Gaskin the backup in Miami rather than the full-time starter. But now we can safely say that through free agency, he dodged the major bullets, and specifically Aaron Jones, Kenyon Drake, and I know a lot of people are going to say, Mason, you're stupid. Kenyon Drake was never going to go to Miami. Why would he be signed to that team that he was traded away from? But we see things like that happen all the time in the NBA, and we see that the NFL is kind of following that track at the same time. So here with Myles Gaskin, I'll just give him a quick shout out. He is not completely out of the woods yet, and we are going to be having to keep him on our radar, but it's going to be someone that is trending in the right direction. All right, so now let's go to the tight end position, and a player that I also hated last offseason, just like Ryan Edwards. It's going to be Tyler Higbee. And here, Tyler Higbee is best case scenario. Nothing could have happened that would be better for Tyler Higbee than what has happened so far in 2021. He gets a massive quarterback upgrade from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford. We've seen Matthew Stafford also heavily target the tight end throughout his entire career, whether that's TJ Hawkinson, even like a player like Brandon Pettigrew. So here, Tyler Higbee, you love the quarterback upgrade. And at the same time, you love the fact that Gerald Everett signs in Seattle. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a hot take. I understand that Tyler Higbee, I believe, last offseason was being drafted around the tight end 7, tight end 8 in redraft formats, a little bit lower in Dynasty just because of his age. But I think that's where he should be drafted this offseason. I was avoiding him at that price last offseason, but that was at a much worse situation. We've seen him have that historic stretch of 5 games in 2019. So while he was a player that I avoided heavily, while I don't own him in a single league, if I can get him at any discount compared to what his price was last offseason, that's going to be something that I am wanting to do. All right, so now let's go back over to a different tight end here, and I know this is also going to be something y'all are probably not really looking at. It's going to be Mark Andrews, who avoided not only Kenny Golladay coming in to soak up targets, but he also avoided Jonnu Smith. He also avoided Hunter Henry. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying, but Mason, why would that team bring in another tight end? And it's because we know the Baltimore Ravens love to run with a tight end heavy personnel. I mean, we've seen this before with them drafting Hayden Hurst in the first round and Mark Andrews in the third round of that, I believe, 2018 NFL draft. Don't kill me if it was 2019. But anyway, here with Mark Andrews, just avoided some more target competition coming in. And we know that he's not necessarily a player that is going to require a ton of targets. He's going to be someone that is going to be getting targeted at a very high clip per snap that he plays. So even if someone was brought in, Mark Andrews wasn't necessarily going to fall off the map. And it's still possible the Ravens bring in someone. I mean, they were talking to Sammy Watkins earlier today. But with Mark Andrews, I think that we have to mark him as a big, big winner in free agency. All right, so now let's go over to a little bit of some more obvious options. Let's go over to the Tennessee Titans, where A.J. Brown and Anthony Ferguson are both massive winners. And here with A.J. Brown, I will say that the one problem was you could never project him to have a target share large enough for him to be that consistent Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas type wide receiver one overall. But now we're going, okay, this has been a wide receiver through 2 years in his NFL career. He's had a historic mark of efficiency per target, and now there are like 200 targets available in this offense with the departure of both Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. And obviously, these targets are going to be spread out, but you would not be surprised to see A.J. Brown jump up to that 28, 29, 30% team target share. And if he can just maintain, just say 90% of his efficiency marks from the first 2 years in his career, A.J. Brown is now a wide receiver that has wide receiver one overall upside. I think that A.J. Brown has the case to be made to be the wide receiver one in Dynasty. And I think if we come out with our Dynasty rankings on Patreon over the next few weeks, you may end up seeing him as my wide receiver one. All right, so now quickly on Anthony Ferguson, I understand that this is a team that also has some different options at tight end, but we have understood that the scheme in Tennessee really relies on the tight end getting targeted heavily. I mean, if you add together Anthony Ferguson and Jonnu Smith's targets from 2020, I mean, you had one of the highest rate of targets in any passing offense. And now that half of that is gone, now that we are going to end up seeing Anthony Ferguson get the majority of those, I think that now he becomes a low-end tight end one, high-end tight end two. And this is someone that you could have got off the waiver wire last offseason in your Dynasty formats. So have to give him that quick shout out. Okay, so now let's go over to two more wide receivers, and our first guy is going to be Keenan Allen, someone that I'm not going to lie, I've been kind of avoiding through this offseason. But now we're looking at Keenan Allen, we go, okay, Hunter Henry is out of town, and he avoided any significant wide receivers coming in. And we understand that he probably has a top 10 quarterback, and we've seen him time and time again command that 28% team target share. So Keenan Allen, I think we look at as an extremely safe option in 2021. I was a little bit worried about this team aggressively targeting just different wide receivers to make sure that we were going to end up having Justin Herbert maximize his potential in 2021. But it looks like they're going to be a little bit more conservative and lean on Keenan Allen as that alpha wide receiver. Okay, so our last player that we're going to be talking about is going to be Laviska Shenault, just because this was also a team that was kind of on the radar. They had a ton of cap space. We could have easily seen Urban Meyer go out there and decide to give the bag to a Kenny Golladay, give it to Juju Smith-Schuster, or any of those type of wide receivers. But no, it looks like Laviska Shenault is lined up to be a full-time player for this Jacksonville Jaguars offense in 2021. So you have to mark him as a winner. All right, now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow.